Okay, we're going to look here at the parts of the periodic table. This, for the most part, should be a review, so we're going to move through this fairly quickly. All right. The kind of major parts that we have here are the representative elements, all right, and those are going to be groups 1 and 2, and they're also groups 13 through 18. They're often also called A elements or 1 through 8A. So if we look down our table here, usually talking about these two and these ones here. And we kind of zoom in, and we could notice that these are usually called 3A, 4A, 5A, 6A. They're often given an old school of A's, either 1 through 8A, or 1 and 2, and then 13 through 18, either way. Our transition elements, or transition metals, are the next ones. These are the groups in the middle, okay? These would be our B elements, or groups 3 through 12. They're often called 3B, 4, 5, 6, a B, or you'll see them as 3 through 12. Either way, most newer periodic tables have the numbers instead of the A and B designations. Okay, then we have the inner transition metals, or inner transition elements. And those are the ones that are kind of inside the transition elements, hence the word inner here. These are the ones that are kind of the purpley color because they kind of sit inside the transition metals, so they're called inner transition metals. They're also called the lanthanide and actinide series, and you see that right there. They're called that because lanthanum is 57 and actinium is 89, so that's what they're called, the lanthanide and actinide series. And those are the inner transition metals, or inner transition elements. Okay, then we have some specific groups in the table, and the first ones are the alkali metals. These ones are group 1. You have the alkaline earth metals, and those are group 2. You have the halogens, which are group 17, and then we have our noble gases, and those are group 18. And they are listed on this table as well, okay? And they're actually colored, all right? Noble gases here are the 118. Halogens are the ones right next to it. Then we have the alkali metals, alkaline earth metals. I always think alkali, you see Li is the first one there. That's how it's easy to remember those, okay? Hydrogen is not a metal, so hydrogen is not part of the alkali metals. It's also not part of the halogens because technically it would sit right here to the left of helium. It's not really called either one. It's kind of its own little thing. Okay, then we look at our types of elements and the properties of different types of elements. We're going to start off with metals. As we looked at in the beginning of the year, there are 3 basic types of elements: metals, nonmetals, and metalloids. Okay, metals are usually a silver gray color. They're pretty much all solids at room temperature, except for mercury. They are very malleable, which again, remember from the beginning of the year, that means that you're going to hammer that into a sheet. And they're also very ductile, which means that it can be drawn into a wire. You have to get copper wiring. All right, they are very shiny, or what we call lustrous, or have a high luster. Okay, and they are also very good conductors of heat and electricity. And they tend to have high melting points. When you try and melt a metal, it takes a good amount of heat to try and melt the metal. All right, on to nonmetals. Okay, nonmetals tend to be very dull. They are not shiny. They tend to be brittle if they're solids. They are not very malleable. They are not very ductile because they're brittle. They are very poor conductors of heat and electricity, often because they're often gases. If it is a solid, they tend to have lower melting points, okay? And they are usually either a solid or a gas at room temperature. There's one exception, kind of like the mercury exception here, and that is bromine. Bromine is actually a liquid at room temperature. Okay, then we have metalloids. Okay, metalloids are a kind of a cross or a mix between a metal and a non-metal. Overall, they tend to not be very good conductors. You can actually add something to them and they'll actually become very good conductors. That's how they actually make like chips for computers. They add a little something to silicon and then it makes it actually very conductive. When we look at our periodic table, okay, and we talk about metals, the left side of your table are all metals. So we're dealing with all of these ones for sure. I'll make that a different color. Okay, all of these ones for sure are metals. All right, if you're looking at a non-metal, there are way less non-metals. Okay, non-metals are the ones that are in the upper right-hand corner here, and they include hydrogen and helium actually as well. Those are all non-metals. The ones at the bottom are also metals. Okay, so there's way more metals. All right. If we see the ones kind of underneath in the blue here with GAIN and SM, these ones are actually also metals. Okay, so they're not necessarily in what we call a transition metal spot, or an alkali metal or an alkaline earth metal, but they are metals as well. You have SM, which is tin, PB, which is lead. Those are all more metallic. Aluminum. Okay, the ones that are yellow there, those are the metalloid. Okay, so those are the few ones that are metalloids. There are not very many of them. Antimony, which is SB, and uranium, which is GE, tend to act more metallic. Okay, but not necessarily. There are some metallic properties, some not metallic properties. AS and SI tend to act more non-metalish for things, but not necessarily for everything. All right, the last thing we're going to look at here, it says reading the periodic table. Okay, your group and your period number. You can very easily find elements. You just got to know how to read the table. Okay, and with your table, read it like a map. So if I wanted to know what was in group 1, period 6, well, that would be cesium. Okay, because I'm in the first group. All right, and if we count down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that's in the 6th period. Okay, period is the row number. If I want to know what is in group 6, period 4, okay, group 6, period 4 is actually right here with chromium. You don't go 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, you have to start at the top. So it is in the 4th row. It'll be chromium. It's very easy to find things. Okay, there are 18 groups. There are 7 periods.